Authority is infrastructure. You build it once and you build it well, it just keeps producing. That's a real difference when you compare content versus paid ads for e-commerce. One stops working the moment you stop spending, the other, it keeps compounding long after you've moved on. So if authority is the asset, how do you actually build it? Hey, here's a question I'd genuinely like you to sit with for a second. If you turned off your paid ads tomorrow, Meta, Google, just all of it, what would be left? Not what would happen to revenue. I mean, what would be left? What assets would still be working for you? What visibility would still exist? What credibility would your brand still carry in the market? For most e-commerce brands, the honest answer is not that much. And hey, that is not a criticism. It's just a logical outcome of 15 years of building on rented ground. And that's a problem that I want to talk to you about today. So hey, let me describe a situation that might feel familiar. You build a real business, a solid product, good margins, a customer base that actually likes what you sell, and you've grown it, largely on the back of paid media. Meta, Google, maybe some influencer spend. You know how to buy traffic, you know how to convert it, and hey, that is an accomplishment. But somewhere in the last couple of years, something's shifted. The costs, they went up. The returns got harder to predict. iOS changes, auction, competition, creative fatigue, just pick your villain. The math just got worse. So you optimized, you tested more, you hired better media buyers. Perhaps you diversified into new channels. All of this helped, but not enough. Because here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. The problem is that you've built a business that has to keep feeding the machine just to stay still. And if you've been watching your e-commerce customer acquisition costs climb this year over year, well, hey, that is not bad luck. It's just a structural cost of business built entirely on rented attention. It's not a growth strategy, it's a treadmill. So here is the distinction that I keep coming back to when I'm talking to e-commerce founders. Rented assets versus owned assets. Paid media, that's a rented asset. You pay for access to an audience that belongs to someone else on a platform that you don't control, on a price set by an auction that you just can't influence. The moment that you stop paying, that audience is gone. That visibility is gone. The traffic is gone. There's nothing wrong with renting. Every business rents something, but the most valuable business in any category doesn't just rent, they own. They own assets that appreciate and assets that keep working when you're not actively spending. Assets that compound over time and become increasingly difficult for competitors to replicate. In e-commerce in 2026, that asset is, wait for it, authority. And most brands aren't building it. When you look at brand authority versus paid ads as two competing investments, authority wins on every long-term metric. It just requires patience that most brands don't have. So here's a frame that I want you to take away from this video. We spent 15 years in the attention economy. The rules were pretty simple. Whoever buys the most attention wins. It worked. Brands that played it well, it just worked extremely well. But we're moving into something different now. I call it the authority economy. Authority economy marketing is a different game entirely. It's one where the brands winning aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest ad spends, but the ones with the deepest credibility. The brands that win aren't necessarily the brands that are spending the most. They're the brands that become the default choice. Default status isn't bought, it's actually built. And the currency that you build it with is authority. Authority compounds. Every piece of quality content you publish, every citation you earn, every engagement signal you build snowballs month over month, year over year. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable if you're not already building it. Your competitors, they're investing in authority right now, and they're building something that will get harder to replicate each and every month. It's not a marketing gap, it's an e-commerce brand moat, a defensible advantage that compounds the longer your competitors ignore it. That's a defensibility conversation, that's a value conversation, because buyers, they don't just pay for revenue, they pay for advantages that competitors can't easily replicate. Whenever I talk about this, somebody inevitably says, well, that sounds great, but doesn't it just really take a long time? And I say, well, not as long as you think, but you got to get started. started. And that's exactly why it works. Most competitors, they won't stay committed long enough to actually build it. The brands that do and sustain it end up in a position that's genuinely difficult to challenge. Not because they outspent anyone, because they outlasted everyone. Let me be specific about why authority compounds in a way that paid attention simply doesn't. When you run a paid ad, you get a transaction. Someone sees it, they click, they buy, or they don't buy. They exchange, well, that exchange is complete, and you spend again tomorrow to get another one. When you build authority, something totally different happens. Content that you published 2 years ago still drives traffic today. A video that you made 18 months ago still gets cited in articles. A body of expertise that you built around your category still tells search engines and AI systems right now that your brand is the credible voice on that topic. That asset, it just keeps working and it layers. Each new piece adds to the foundation. Each citation reinforces the last. Each engagement signal tells the algorithms and the AI systems that real people find real value here. Hey, I've worked with hundreds of channels since 2007, and the brands that invested in authority-based content just 3 years ago are now in a position where their competitors genuinely cannot buy their way into it overnight. Paid media, it's an inventory. You use it, it's gone. Authority is infrastructure. You build it once and you build it well, it just keeps producing. That's a real difference when you compare content versus paid ads for e-commerce. One stops working the moment you stop spending, the other, it keeps compounding long after you've moved on. So if authority is the asset, how do you actually build it? There are multiple ways. PR, thought leadership, community strategic partnerships, they all contribute. But from everything that I've seen across hundreds of brands, YouTube is the most efficient authority building asset available to e-commerce brands right now. And for any brand serious about e-commerce organic growth strategy, not just traffic, but compounding brand equity, YouTube is where that strategy lives. Most brands think that YouTube is a marketing channel. The smartest brands are treating it like an authority infrastructure. That means that every video produces a full transcript. It's crawlable by search engines, readable by AI as written content. Every video accumulates engagement signals that function as a third-party proof that real audiences find value in what you're saying. And YouTube content gets cited in a way that most brand content simply doesn't. So if I'm sitting right here, maybe drinking a Mai Tai in hand, I'll tell you honestly, the brands that I've watched build this over the last couple years are operating with confidence that their competitors don't have. That's because they know that something is working for them that isn't dependent on next quarter's ad budget. And that is a different feeling, and that's a different business. Okay, so here is my prediction. The next generation of category leaders, they won't be built solely on media buying. They'll be built on assets. Assets that compound. Assets that create trust. Assets that make a brand the obvious answer before a customer even sees an ad. That's what authority does. So brands that are building it today are quietly creating advantages that will be very difficult to challenge tomorrow. Paid advertising, it'll always have a role. I'm not here to tell you to turn off your Meta campaigns. In fact, Meta, just keep it going because with double screening right now, about 65% will search after seeing an ad. And you want to be there when they do. But if your entire growth strategy depends on renting attention you don't own from platforms that you don't control at prices that you can't predict, you're more exposed than your revenue numbers might suggest. Building brand authority for e-commerce, it's not optional anymore. It's the only way to reduce paid ad dependency. Hey, in the next video, I'm gonna get specific about the e-commerce growth strategy that I think most brands are missing right now and what the brands actually pulling ahead are doing differently. If that's worth your time, then subscribe and I'll see you there.